The Boston Celtics. Are the Sixers still behind the Boston Celtics? And do the Celtics have a chance to win the championship this year?
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hi, I'm your host, Keith Pompey. I want to thank you for joining in today, but also I want to thank my man, Gary Washburn, for joining the show. Now, if y'all don't know Gary, y'all don't know the NBA. Gary Washburn is one of the nation's best columnists. He works for the Boston Globe. He's been covering professional sports for over 20 years, award-winning columnist, and he knows everything about the Boston Celtics, inside and out. So it makes a lot of sense to have Gary on here to talk about the Celtics. And the reason why I want to talk about the Celtics is, you guys know, the Celtics has always been like the Sixers' nemesis. The Sixers have never, since I covered the team, been able to beat them in the big games. And right now we look at Kristaps Porzingis, we look at the other moves that the Celtics have made, and I got to ask G. Wash, because he's always straight up, ask him about the Celtics and how good they're going to be this year. Gary, Boston lost in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They eliminated the Sixers. The year before that, they went to the NBA Finals and lost. This year's team, what do you like about it? And first of all, do you feel like this team, with the addition of Kristaps Porzingis, is going to be better than last year's squad?
Yeah, that's hard to say, because I think they felt like the Miami series really, I felt like the entire playoffs, they knew that they were limited. What I mean by that is, they let the Hawks take them to 6 games. They should have probably either swept the Hawks or taken them out in 5. And then the Sixers series, they felt like they gave away game 4, the one where they left James Harden wide open in the corner for the 3. They could have went up 3-1 in that series. Instead, they fell behind 3-2. They had to rally to win that series. And then against the Heat is their nemesis, exposes all their weaknesses. Eric Spoelstra outcoached Joe Mazzulla by leaps and bounds. Coach circles around them. They went up 3-0. The Celtics tie it, and then they just got tired in Game 7. Their offense was terrible. So I think they felt that playoff run had a lot of cracks in it. They should have eliminated the Hawks quicker. They should have eliminated the Sixers quicker, and they should have beat the Heat, and they should have been playing the Nuggets in the finals. So I think they felt like, we can't run the same team out there this coming up year and expect the same results. We have to do something with this team to jolt it, to get better offensively, to get better, harder to guard. And, it was obviously the beginning of it was supposed to be Malcolm Brogdon was supposed to go the reigning 6th man of the year. Mm-hmm. And what I think the problem with that is, Brogdon has, he came to Boston with a reputation of being a floor leader, a point guard in Indiana and Milwaukee, a good defender. And the Celtics were like, we need you to be Vinnie Johnson. We need you to be scoring off the bench. We need you to be Jamal Crawford. So everything else besides just scoring slipped. He wasn't a good defender. He really didn't get a lot of time, especially down the stretch at point guard, because remember, Keith, in the finals, they had trouble executing their offense, and a lot of people blame Marcus Smart for that. They said he's not a true point guard. You can't get them in the sets. Their offense is terrible down the stretch. They just, they blew that game 4 that I think they'll regret for a long time against when they were up, I think, 6 points with 5 minutes left. They win that game. They go up 3-1. Instead, Steph goes crazy. They don't ever win another game in that series. So they felt something had to change. And so it was supposed to be Brogdon. Obviously, Brogdon had the elbow injury that kind of really limited him in the Miami series. So it was supposed to be him. When it wasn't, Memphis, who has been interested in Marcus Smart for about 5 years, swooped in and was like, we don't want Brogdon, but we sure as hell will take Smart off your hands. And so that's where everything, Tyus Jones goes to Washington. So then they get Porzingis. So to me, I don't know how this is going to look, because now they're saying, well, Derek White will be your point guard. Okay. Derek White has had a rough first half. When he came over to trade deadline in 2022, it was rough. He's one of those, Keith, you know the league. Some dudes got confidence up the yin-yang. There's dudes on the roster that like, I know I'm 1 for 20, but I'm going to keep shooting 20 more. Derek White is a dude that if he's not confident, he does not play well. He doesn't have that automatic NBA player swag. So him having a full training camp and him playing a specific role, he flourished. Second team all defense. Like, he really had a good year. But point guard is a whole another ask. That's getting dudes in the sets. That's telling Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown where to be. Get your ass over here in the post. Like, all that. Is he going to be that guy? Like, who is going to be the point guard of this team? Because you didn't traded your point guard. All his flaws and faults, he did get the team into his sets at times. He did have a positive impact on the team. So it's hard to say, Keith, like, is that going to work? And then they're like, well, Jason Tatum is going to handle, like, so now in addition to scoring 30 points a game, now you want Jason to be the point guard too? Point forward? Like, okay, that's a lot of responsibility. Jaylen still got to get his handle together. We all know that that's been a problem. So he can't really play point. So their point guard is a question. And then they let, it was kind of like with the Sixers, where the Sixers lost George Niang to Cleveland. Mm-hmm. The Celtics lose Grant Williams to Dallas. And as much as Grant had people, he talked too much, he always talked to rest. I liked Grant. He's a good cop, good solid kid, good family. Like, he works his ass off. And he's their second best defender. And he's not afraid of nobody. He showed that against Jimmy Butler. People was like, don't poke the bear. Don't talk to like, he had enough heart to go up against Jimmy Butler. Now he lost, but he had enough heart to go up against Jimmy Butler. So to me, Keith, it's hard to say whether this could work wonders. They got Porzingis. So now they're harder to guard. 3 shooters on the floor with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and now Porzingis, and then Robert Williams and probably either Al Horford. They have to figure out who's going to start. With Derek White, maybe Al Horford comes off the bench. So they've got 3 legitimate floor stretching players. Last year, they didn't have enough shooting. Shooting has always been a problem. They got O'Shea Brissett, who might be a really sneaky move, the kid from Indiana, who I watched him in person, hit 7 threes against the Celtics 2 years ago. He was looking like Steph, and he's got kind of a heart. They hope that he replaces Grant Williams, because he's 6'8", he can defend, he's tough, he's got a lot of heart, and he ain't making a lot of money, because the Grant thing was all about money. That second apron, Jason, because remember, Jaylen just signed for $305 million. Yeah. Jason next year is getting Jason is getting $330 next year. So you basically got $635 million invested in 2 players until you decide to trade one of them or whatever happens. So the Celtics are like, okay, we got to figure out who to pay and who not to pay, and we can't pay Grant. We can't pay Grant $15 million a year. That's what he wanted. He wanted $15 million a year. That wasn't going to work. So O'Shea Brissett makes like $3 million. So it was economical. So this team, Keith, could be a lot better. A lot of, with guys in there who can help, a deeper bench with Steve Mashalik, Delano Blanton from the Toronto Raptors, Peyton Pritchard coming back, Sam Hauser, Brogdon, who's now healthy, and we'll see his attitude's like. I don't think he's happy with what went down, so I think they're going to have to kind of talk to him a little bit about, hey man, we're sorry. We know this is the business of the league. You grown man. This is what your role. We need you back. So they could be better or they could be worse. And I hate to sound like that, but I have no idea how Derek White's going to work at point guard. I thought that they would sign a point guard like a veteran, Chris Paul, somebody who can just run the show, shoot off the pick and roll, but they decided to go with Derek White, and they gave up Marcus. So to me, the Celtics are championship contenders. Their window is open. Talent-wise, they have some of the best talent in the league. You could tell me what you think about the West is tough with the Lakers now fully loaded.
Yeah.
Phoenix, Denver's coming back, and people still sleeping on Denver even though they won the championship. Yeah. The Clippers are going to be apparently healthy. But in the East, you're looking at Giannis, and he keeps saying how I don't know if I'm gonna be back in Milwaukee long. Oh, y'all, Giannis is putting out them feelers, and then Miami is waiting for Lillard. The Knicks, we don't know. I think the Knicks will take a step forward. So if you're the Celtics and the Heat, it's like if you're the Celtics, this is their year to win it. No excuses, no BS.
Mm-hmm.
Full year with Joe Mazzulla, new coaching staff, as we'll talk about later, with Sam Cassell and Charles Lee. It's time.
Yeah,
you're
exactly. You're exactly right. But what the biggest question I have before we go to this break, and we'll get into some of the other things, is when you're talking about the starters, I'm looking at it okay, so we know that Malcolm Brogdon is a guy who he can play, he can get guys in the sets, right? He's shown that, but he also has shown that he can do the other things as far as being a quality defender and all that other stuff. Why isn't he starting? As a point guard,
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I thought because when they traded for him, Keith, it was he's going to have the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter over Marcus Smart, because as we all know, Marcus Smart didn't really handle himself all that well in the finals in terms of getting into the offense. Mm-hmm. Then when we got to training camp, they're telling Malcolm, you're the sixth man. You ain't playing with that much of Marcus. So it's somebody made that decision, right? And then Malcolm did what they asked him to do. So that's why I think he's I win sixth man of the year and y'all fools trying to trade me? This is what y'all, you asked me to score off the bench, shoot 44% from three, bingo. Mm-hmm. And, he did not have a good playoffs or whatever, especially the Miami. He was hurt, but he's now y'all trying to move me, And so that's why I think he was upset. But you would think that they would try to implement him as maybe a second point guard, or they're going to, is it Peyton Pritchard? To me, Peyton Pritchard's a guy, this is the whole thing. He was in the doghouse last year. Mazzulla made it clear there was a couple guys he didn't like to play much. Grant Williams, until he had to, and Peyton Pritchard. Okay, Peyton Pritchard didn't get any taller. Okay, he's the same guy. He's 26. He is who he is. So now you're going to give him more time because you need him, because he told me that he was hoping to get traded at the deadline last year. He straight up said that on the record, Keith. I was kind of disappointed I didn't get moved. Celtics fans, it's like Philly, oh, you don't want to be here? Get up out. Get
yeah.
The fans did not like that he said that. Now he's back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's got a role. So the same thing with Malcolm. It's you didn't try to trade Malcolm and you bringing him back, and then you wanted, and then your backup, Peyton Pritchard, wanted out because you weren't playing him, and now basically you're gonna implement him and give him a role. So how is all that gonna work? That's it. You still have some of the best talent. You got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You got Porzingis when he's healthy. Robert Williams had his first healthy offseason probably in his career where he wasn't rehabbing something. Al Horford, your guy, he's 37. So you got to lighten up on his minutes. And Al, unfortunately, he stopped shooting in the paint. Al don't do paint no more. He just sat there. He would get the ball in the paint and just pass it to 3-point shooters. Al, in your olden days, in your Atlanta days, you was posting jump hook, short. Nope, you don't do that no more. So you have two post guys in Williams and Horford who don't have post games anymore. That's the problem. That's what Porzingis can get you, can post up. He can't shoot over any defender. So to me, it's a lot of things that got to happen in training camp. We'll see. And obviously, we'll be out there for the preseason in Philly in mid-October, like how this all is going to work, because it's a lot of moving parts. And the management took a chance by moving Smart because they felt like they had to give Brown and Tatum more responsibility leadership-wise. I think there was some people in the organization who felt like Smart's shadow over the organization, his influence was too much. Like for a guy who was not a superstar, like his overall impact and influence was just getting too much. Like, we got to get him out of here. Not anything he's done, but we got to give our stars a chance to lead. And so we'll see if that happens, because I can't tell you how it's all going to – it sounds good on paper, but Porzingis got to be healthy. They need a big – they like Williams has got injury issues, Horford 37, and Porzingis got injury issues. So they don't have a healthy, dominant center. Like, I don't know who's going to guard Joel Embiid. It used to be Marcus. Like, who, I don't know. Like, who? Horford, okay. Grant Williams,
37.
Grant Williams used to guard him. He gone. So
that's
who's going to guard Joel? I'd like to see that. Is it going to be Robert Williams? Like, are they going to give him more responsibility? Like, okay, Robert, we're taking the training wheels off. It's time for you to start guarding every other quality center in the league. Like, we got to see what you got, as opposed to we're going to protect you, keep you out of foul trouble. So like, I'm fascinated to see what happens when the Sixers play the Celtics that first game, because preseason, shoot, Embiid might not even play, but the regular season, because I don't know who's going to guard Joel Embiid, because the two guys who used to guard him, like sometimes are gone.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy. But look, we'll talk about more when we get right back. I want to talk to y'all about Jace Medical, right? Jace, and with Jace Medical, you can get the Jace case. Now, the thing about the Jace case is it provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jace case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. Get ongoing care from our physicians on any treatment-related questions, doctor-created, doctor-recommended. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Jace handles everything from online evaluations to licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultant care, right? So this is what you need to do, right? This is what you need to do. You need to save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Now, Wash, you said a lot of great things, right? A lot of them. And the thing that gets me, like the one thing that I will say from the outside looking in with the whole Marcus Smart thing is, it's like, to me, I keep going back and forth because, Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of the Celtics. Like, he was the gritty one. Like, he was the guy people forget in the first game of the season, he got into it with Joel Embiid. You rarely don't see guards standing toe to toe with a center, right? But I also realized that I felt like Marcus Smart, he might not be the best point guard out there, but he's a winner. He knows what to win. Marcus Smart has also been in the league for a while now. And there were times last year I saw in that series with the Sixers where Joe Mazzulla was doing some things that maybe Marcus didn't agree with, and you saw some facial expressions from Marcus, right? So maybe that could have been the thing, like you said, he's hovering over the franchise. But at the same time, when we talk about grit, we talk about certain guys that you need in the locker room to win a championship. That's that dude. And I felt like, yeah, he's not the, let's face it, he's not the all-star. He's not he's not the highest paid player, but he's a leader and he leads in his own way, right? So I think that they're going to miss him. But the one thing that I will say when we talk about the East, you look at the Sixers. Now, two questions. People in Philly are going to be a little upset with me for saying this, but would you rather have this James Harden situation looming over or deciding who the point guard is going to be? Would you know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? And then you look at Milwaukee. I think that the whole Giannis thing, like I do think that once the season starts, he might like zip up a little bit and just start to play. Because right now, like you said, the window is there for the Celtics. The window is also there for Milwaukee. They brought everybody back, and after a while, it's going to be like, okay, what you trying to do? You trying to get your brother like more money? Is that what you trying to do? But because I think that it's there for them to win. My big thing is wondering just what is Porzingis going to do to kind of fit into the loop with the other two guys to free them up to allow them to have some more success, right? Because let's face it, both of them are pretty good players. Like you said, Jason Tatum is about to get 330 or whatever it is next season. So to me, I think the Celtics are there, right? But when we look at it and you say from the West, I see what Phoenix is doing. I got to see if it's going to work because I have to see if Bradley Beal is going to buy into that role of him being a point guard, so to speak, and deferring to other people. Denver is good, but sometimes, teams have that championship hiccup, right? The Lakers, I think the Lakers are getting too old. Like LeBron is getting too old. I know they're getting new guys and stuff like that, but I do think it's out there for the Celtics to get it. Now, the one thing that we talked about is the biggest weakness I saw on that Celtics team last year was the coaching staff. No offense. It was like, Joe Mazzulla wasn't even one of the top coaches before he got the job. You know what I mean? The year before that. And then there were certain people that I saw like who was on the bench who these were new roles to them too, right? So right now you look at it, they went out there and they got Sam Cassell, who people in Philadelphia are upset because he left. Other coaches, I feel like that this team with Joe Mazzulla, this staff is going to help him out. And to me, that's one of the most underrated pickups that this team has in regards to going out there getting quality assistant coaches.
Yeah, Keith, last year, the only person you can really blame is Ime Udoka. That whole situation was just a mess. Like right before training camp, so this time last year, right? Like all this is going down. And Ime gets suspended and eventually now is coaching Houston Rockets. His staff is there. His staff want to get paid too. Like they're not going to quit or walk away. And I think Ime told his staff that he put together, hey guys, if they're going to keep you, stay on. And then the moment I get a new job, because I'm gonna wait this on out. And the moment I get a new job, I'll bring you onto my staff. So just hang on and just work this year in Boston. So you had Ime's staff plus Joe Mazzulla was a holdover along with a guy named Tony Dobbins, and they give Mazzulla the job. So what happens if they give that job to Ben Sullivan, one of Ime's guys? Or do we have this situation? We don't know. Ben Sullivan's an aspiring head coach. They could have given the job to Damon Stoudemire, former NBA point guard. We all know Damon, Mighty Mouse, former Rookie of the Year, all-star, just a guy who's proved his, worth as a coach at D1 level and was an assistant coach before in Memphis. So they could have given it to him. They gave it to Mazzulla. So I don't know what kind of issues that caused amongst that staff. I think the staff was like, let's just stay together and make this work. but there was a level of confusion and a lack of experience. Stoudemire, who is the old head, all of what you wanted in a coach, played in the league at a high level. The players know him. If they don't know him, they can look at him on YouTube. Still looks young, still can hoop a little bit. Like he's not one of them dudes walking with a cane. Like he's exactly what the NBA wants in assistant coaches like Sam Cassell. So he leaves for Georgia Tech in the middle of the season. So now you got Mazzulla and Ime's guys, and it's like they're just trying to make it work. And I just think they were way over their heads, and it got exposed in the playoffs. Quinn Snyder outcoached them. Doc outcoached them all the way until Game 5 or Game 6 when he decided to start Robert Williams, and Doc had no more bullets left, and James was out of gas, and maybe a little too much party or whatever, and that was the key to that series. And then Spoelstra just lapped him in terms of coaching. So now you have Sam Cassell, who is going to play the perfect role. Like Keith, I can ask you, you can ask me, why has Sam Cassell not been a head coach in this league? We do not know. He gets along great with the players. 3-time champion, 2 in Houston, 1 in Boston. Played 15, 16 years. Played great college ball. Played at a great team of like we've known Sam Cassell for 30 years. No issues off the floor. I mean, still can't get a head coaching job. So he comes to Boston, but his attitude is like, I'm gonna work with Jason and James. I'm gonna help these young guys get to the next step. He's taking the right attitude. Now, people are like, well, if something happened with Mazzulla, they start out like 10 and 15, it's Cassell's job. It could be. Maybe that's why him and Charles Lee came, because they know that if some stuff goes down, it could be their head coaching job. But I also think Joe needed some fresh blood. Get rid of, Ime's guys. 3 of them went to Houston. 1 of them went to New Orleans. So they're gone. They're happy getting, they got positions. So I think the addition of Cassell and Charles Lee, who's the kind of the guy that we all don't know a whole lot about, kind of a quiet guy, but is in Milwaukee. And then they got Phil Pressey, former Celtic kind of journeyman, who's now on their staff. So he's he's the guy that, I think Phil might be 31, 30. So he's a young guy that they can relate to, because, you know how it is, Keith. You got to put these staffs, you got to be delicate with these staffs. Like you got to put the old head, you got to get the former player, you got to get the guy who's going to work 18 hours a week, a day, giving James the proper passes at practice. You got to give all these guys on there that has a specific role. And so they are trying to fill that. And I think a full off season, full confidence Mazzulla, he can now start this season knowing this is his team, his franchise, and he has a full confidence organization. Because I thought if they had got swept by Miami, his job was going to be on the line. It was going to be close, because there was some coaching candidates out there, and the folks were circling and calling Brad Stevens saying, how the league is, Keith. Hey, man, if you – I'm interested if you want to get rid of your boy, I'm interested in coming in there, because that would have been the premium job. Even
no doubt.
Who knows, maybe Nick Nurse might have been we don't know, right?
I know, right?
It could have been over Philly. You don't know, but I know that there were coaches who were calling Brad Stevens, expressing interest in that job. So they had to come out quickly and say, we're going to bring him back. So the coaching staff is very important. It's one of the times that I've noticed covering a team that the coaching staff is critical. Like usually, you get a head coach in charge, you get your assistants, and they generally make the right moves. Usually you lose with talent, or you might lose because of stubbornness of a philosophy. Some people blame Doc for what happened in Philly and how come, why you get along with James, or why did you do this? Let James give him the keys or whatever. But this season was the first one where I literally saw how a coaching staff is critical, and how guys like Spoelstra and some of these guys, even Quinn Snyder, who, had his troubles in Utah, but it's just they sense vulnerability and they attack it. And so
Yeah.
that might happen. We'll see if that happens this year.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll see. But I think Sam, like you said, Sam and them is going to be good for him. And let's face it, this is a players league driven league, and you got two all stars. All NBA guys. You have the unicorn, so to speak. So I feel like everything is going to be good for him. But look, when we get back from this break, I want to talk to you about the perception of the Sixers in Philadelphia. And because growing up, I grew up in Philly, Wash, and we hated the Celtics. We hated everything about Boston, and I wasn't even a Sixers fan, but I hated the Celtics. But I want to talk to you about this. I'll talk about that when I get right back. So Bird Dog stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thighs and legs, giving you a truly sculpted look, right? Bird Dog shirts do the exact same thing, as Lumeron, but fit way better. So what you need to do is, right, y'all, if y'all want to get these Bird Dogs, you go to birddog.com, locked on NBA, or enter the promo code locked on NBA at checkout for a free Bird Dog water bottle with your order. That's birddog.com/locked on NBA for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. And plus, I don't want to see you take the Bird Dogs off. So, do me that favor. but G Wash, look. So I'm going to be honest. So I grew up in Boston, right? I mean, I grew up in Philly. And, it used to be that rivalry where, the Sixers and the Celtics. And I remember the first couple of times I went to Boston, I was like, dang, man, these people kind of cool. Some of these people are cool, right? Because I was always taught to hate people from Boston. Now, the thing is that I've realized with rivalries are that the Sixers hated the Celtics because they couldn't get past the Celtics in a way, right? They just couldn't. Now, you did have Wilt Chamberlain going up against Bill Russell. You know what I mean? That was like two epic centers, excuse me. But when you think of the Celtics, you think of when you look at rivalries, national perception is the Celtics rival is the Lakers, right? Everybody talks about that. And what I want to ask you is, how do people in Boston perceive it? Because you've been here. They hate the Celtics in Philly. In Boston, they boo the Sixers too, but I've never been to a Celtics-Lakers game. So, but my question is the rivalry just one-sided? Or, I know it's a rivalry on both sides, but do the people in Boston hate the people in Philly or hate the Sixers like the Sixers fans hate the Celtics?
I think they don't hate him as much because they've had so much success over the years, even back to Russell against Chamberlain. Chamberlain's crew was only able to get past the Celtics in '67, and that's the year one of the all-time great teams and all the one of the best Sixer teams of all time. I still think, that should be a 30 for 30. I still think the '83 Sixers team was the greatest team I ever saw. That's just my opinion. You could say the '96 Bulls and all the whatever, one of the Heat teams, but that '83 Sixers team was, man, they were lethal. But I think the Celtics look at the Lakers because the Lakers rivalry was revived in the last 15 years. Like it was dead after when you watch Winning Time, when the Celtics and Lakers, Bird retired, Magic retired, and both teams had kind of hard times in the 90s until the Lakers woke up and drafted Kobe or traded for Kobe and then got Shaq. Then they were suddenly back. And the Celtics were like, Celtics, that didn't work for them, right? So even when the Sixers went to the finals in 2001, the Celtics were still kind of trailing them or whatever. And then when the Celtics got kind of back with Pierce, Allen, and Garnett, and then Kobe got Gasol, and those got Artest and Derek Fisher. Suddenly, the rivalry after 20 years got revitalized. So there was a new hatred for the Lakers because it was like they faced each other 2 times in 3 years in the finals. That epic Game 7 in 2010, one of the crazier games I've ever seen, I ever covered, was that Game 7 in 2010. So I think there's more of a hatred for the Lakers because the rivalry's been revitalized, but there's still a hatred for the Sixers, but the Sixers haven't come in and won. Like I remember 2012, the year that, when it was Evan Turner and Andre Iguodala, and they upset the Bulls. They were the 8th seed, and they were like really I think under Doug Collins, I want to say Doug Collins, a really hard-working team.
It was
hard-working team, and the Lakers, because the Celtics had to beat them in 7 because they were a hard-working team. And then then the Sixers go through the process, so they're kind of laughing stocks. And you should write a book on that, Keith. That whole thing, you were there for all that. Some of the guys they put out there in a Sixer uniform during those times. But I think it's been revitalized, but I don't think until the Sixers punch the Celtics in the mouth, win a playoff series, win something significant, do the Celtics fans probably going to respect the Sixers as like an equal rival. They still they still hate the Lakers. And then 2, they hate the Heat. The Heat, over the last 15 years, when LeBron got to Miami and they face each other, the Heat has been probably their biggest rival in the Eastern Conference. And then the Heat has taken their the Heat took their lunch money in the bubble.
Yeah.
And then they took their lunch money last year with Jimmy Butler. And then they took them, in 2012, when it was kind of the last run of the Big Three. So that's a more hated rival probably in our little brothers, our nephews' generation of hoop, is because they don't remember. They're not tripping off Bird and Doc. They're not tripping off even, Iguodala. They're not tripping off the 2012. They see LeBron, and then now they see Jimmy Butler. So the Heat are probably the bigger rival to a younger fan than the Sixers now, because the Sixers haven't beaten the Celtics in the playoff series.
Yeah, and what they look at the Sixers, like they look at Joel Embiid and like, yeah, Joel Embiid's a great player, but we have his number. I mean, like I feel like we think about it. Like, remember back in the day, they were laughing about the confetti game when the confetti came out, right? Yeah. They also, I mean, I feel like the couple times when the Celtics got cocky in the regular season, like, all right, we beat the Sixers handily last time, then they got punched in the mouth, right? Yeah. But aside from that, when it really mattered, like in the playoffs, the Sixers came up short. And that's why I feel like the Sixers missed a golden opportunity this season. Totally. They were up what, 3-2?
And I think they would have matched up well with Miami. Miami, the way they were playing, it would have been 6 or 7 games. I don't think they would have beat Miami in 5. Mm-hmm. But I do think the Sixers I would have taken the Sixers over the Heat, because now you got somebody to neutralize Bam Adebayo and Embiid. Mm-hmm. Like you just had, and I just think the Celtics had kind of I don't want to say fear, but they didn't have the toughness as the Heat had. And when they went up in Game 1, I think was where they lost the series, when they were up 12 points near halftime or whatever, and I think they felt like, we got these fools, like we're a better team. And then Miami scored 46 points in the third quarter. That changed the entire series. And Miami took Game 1, and then the Celtics then for Game 2, we can't lose both games at home, and they ended up losing both games at home. And then they gave up in Game 3. So to me, the Sixers I thought would have matched up better, because there isn't that inherent, like, dude started going back to the bubble and how things were then. I think the Celtics got jittery. The Sixers probably would have been like, no, the Sixers would, especially guys like your boy PJ Tucker, former Heat player, like they would have probably had the mental toughness to hang with them and probably win that series in 6 or 7.
Yeah, it would have been different. But look, G Wash, I appreciate you. And again, if you guys haven't followed my man G Washburn on Twitter, you need to do it. It's a great follow. Gary, I'm gonna be honest with you. a lot of times people, we don't like subscribe in the papers, because and if you tell somebody else, I'm gonna tell you, if you repeat this, I'm gonna tell them that you're lying. But I subscribe to the Boston Globe, y'all, because I got to read what Gary Washburn writes. He's straight up. He holds people accountable. He spits the truth. So I have a subscription to the Boston Globe, and it's not a work subscription. It's my subscription. So one of those to let y'all know. But you need to follow my man. You need to follow Gary on Twitter at @GWashburn at Globe, right?
G Washburn Globe.
At Globe, yeah, G Washburn Globe. So yeah, fuck G Washburn Globe. So
no, I got to give you your props though. Like me, I think in our generation or this current generation, people expect us to be fans of the team, expect us to root for the team that we cover. We don't. We cover straight up. You right. What's keeping it real on the Sixers? I know some of the fans don't like you. Some of the fans don't like me. They think I don't like the team, or I hate the guy. I hate the players, or Mazzulla hates you and all that. No, it's not true. We have to write what's honest and what's real, and that's what we do. And I think we both. I said. That's the way it's supposed to be covered, in my opinion. If you want, there's other websites that will give you and other outlets that give you favorable coverage and say, hey, don't worry. The Sixers are going to be good. Don't worry. Yeah. You know, they're going to make – Harden's going to come back and they're going to win it. But you keep it real. And I said, I want to applaud you for that.
I appreciate that.
I know, you're a Philly guy. I know people think, why don't you like the Sixers, man? You hate us. And he's like, no, I don't hate you. I'm right with the truth. And that's what we try to do.
You gotta do it. Thank you. But look, y'all, I want to thank G Washburn. Make sure you follow him at G Washburn Globe. And then also, I'm telling you, especially this season, if you want to read some other stuff outside the Sixers, do yourself a favor and read my man. And especially when they do play the Sixers, read my man. But Wash, I want to thank you for joining. I really do. It was a great 40 minutes of discussion. I want to thank y'all for listening. And you guys, you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts at. It's free and available. Also, you could go to the YouTube channel, Locked On 76ers YouTube. When you go there, make sure you click on that Liberty Bell. When you do that, you become a new subscriber and you get notifications when the next podcast drop. So do that. And have a great day. Have a blessed weekend. And Wash, seriously, man, thanks for joining the show, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Peace.